Now, in keeping with our theme of trying to keep every day different than the day before and different than the day after, I call it the no Groundhog Day life. We were hoping today would be a bright sunny day and we could get a ride in. It just didn't happen. But it's actually going to work out to our advantage because this afternoon is Miles's concert and we wanted to go to his concert. And of course that means putting clean clothes on, something I'm not really happy doing all the time. In fact, I'm almost never happy. I'm always happy in my Farmer Brown outfit. But what's really happening in my head here is as I have time and I've been working on Vlad's parts, I've been dreaming about my future RD project for this fall, and it's given me some free time while I'm sanding and grinding and mixing epoxy to think about where I want that project to go. And of course we try to put out a new video every day. During the summer that's really difficult to do because we have so many family things to do. And I like these concerts and among other things, and Karen's garden, and just a big honey-do list. And I'm sure everybody else that I know has that big summer honey-do list. So our plan is always to try to work on motorcycles during the winter months when it might not be desirable to have these long rides in. And when summer comes, we get our 100, 150 mile, sometimes 200 mile days. You never know when they're coming. We have the rides that Jose leads, the rides with Luciano, the two-stroke rides, the rides with Mark Morgan. We try to do that, but then along comes a thing like our friend Vlad had a little accident with his BMW, a little issue. We've been trying to straighten it out, and as long as we're going to do that, we have a BIMOTA part he wants us to work on too. So we're trying to get that done for him. He's been, again, and I always say it, he's been a good friend in a time of need. Gotten me parts. Pretty much every bike here has some part that he's gotten me, including that Shoei helmet, which that was the best helmet I've ever had, the X14. Anyway, I'm done out here. It's time to feed the fish, time to make a pot of coffee and get busy. Now come on guys, I want some real commentary here. Do I ever not feed the fish? Do I ever starve the fish? Let's get some commentary going here. How about a few votes for the Hall of Fame? The Hall of Fish. Now, I just wanted to mention one little thing that I stumbled upon, and that's this, and this is $5 a can in Lowe's. And see what it is? It's paint and primer. Now, obviously not for motorcycles, but we've got a bunch of honey-do lists around here. We want to paint parts of the pergola, and I wound up buying black and white of this, where it's got the primer right inside, and it really does a nice job of restoring stuff that needs a restoration or needs painting every so often. And this is part of my next honey-do. And this is one of the jobs I use, that Rust-Oleum that has the primer already in it. I used it on the foundation of the house. I used it about 5 years ago and redid it this year. It lasted about 5 years, and I did the whole thing in about a half an hour. What I do, I put a rug down here so none gets on the driveway, and just keep moving the rug down. And I think it took 6 cans to do this side of the house. And it really worked good on the Bilco door that goes down into the cellar, among other things. And it really worked good on the hose holder. So all these little honey-dos, that Rust-Oleum with the primer in it, is really some good stuff. But here's the honey-do that has taken up the bulk of the time this year. And it's just coming into flowers are blooming. We have roses blooming already. Flowers. It just couldn't be any more fun. All right, time to get to work. So the H2 part has been drying. I'm going to let that dry another day because I want to get the epoxy or the CA or both drying on the BIMOTA fairing that has some cracks and needs some tender loving care. And we're going to try to do a little bit of this each day because we do have this giant honey-do list and we do have the concert tonight. Now this morning I want to work on this BIMOTA part. It's got severe cracks here, and I'll show these on a close-up. That was one of the things, and we have to reinforce it in the back with some carbon fiber. And there's a crack somewhere else here. I gotta find it. Oh yeah, over here. And reinforcing this is going to be pretty challenging because this is at See, what I think happens with these parts, they don't really fit the way mass-produced parts fit. All these handmade things, and they're putting stress on it. And obviously, that's where the stress is. So that'll make... I'm always right, by the way. Just ask my wife. Anyway, we'll have a cup of coffee here and get started on this. Now, I already see, since we've already refinished these once already, I see we have already reinforced carbon fiber up in these spots, and that didn't break. But here's what happens here. If this part isn't right, and this is here, it spreads it, and right there is what's called in engineering a stress riser. It means a stress riser is if you have a big piece of wood and you go to break it, where it breaks is the stress riser. So first thing is to clean these up with simple green, clean the repair areas, and then of course sand them, and then of course decide how we're going to get these carbon reinforcements in place. But I know these parts are hard to get and expensive, so, and this is always a challenge. Now, it doesn't matter what repair you do. Every repair should start off by being as clean as possible. I use Simple Green, or that material that's like Simple Green that they sell in Harbor Freight seems pretty good too. Except I have noticed the Harbor Freight stuff, if you put it on full strength, it can make the paint turn chalky white in some cases. And I'm not sure, it's probably a really strong degreaser. So getting all this degrease and road debris or whatever's on here off, that'll be step one. And I gotta get both sides of this. Since these parts have been repaired multiple times, I'm not sure at what point in time they have a rough service life, I'm sure. The streets of Brooklyn are full of bumps, and whatever engine is in this bike, I don't even know. On this BIMOTA, I think it's a Ducati, but I don't know. There's always the vibration issue, but we'll start with the, I guess this one here. And the first thing, now let me show this up close. Now it's best if I show this up close in person. Let me see if I can hold the camera in one hand. See what happened? You see the crack? Whoop, that piece in fact is cracked right off. In fact, it's cracked right where Vlad, it won't really matter here. Where the Dremel tool, he decided to Dremel this piece of aluminum off. I'm not sure that was the smartest thing in the world, but I guess we'll find out. So this will have to get glued back on. First of all, we're going to reinforce the whole thing with carbon. And then this piece up here is right where the stress riser is in this part. And see, this is what we did previously. We reinforced everywhere a bolt went with carbon fiber. I know, those are my reinforced parts. They look pretty solid. This one I reinforced. This one didn't break. This one did, but I know I didn't put that aluminum in there. I know somebody else did before Vlad bought this bike probably. So first thing is to get this glued up with some CA. With all these repairs is, it's just like repairing model airplanes. Every one is totally different. Every one is unique. In fact, this one, the end is clogged up here, which is common. Get that cleaned up. And I want to spread the crack, get some of this material to go down in the crack first of all. Then press, and I need to do it one piece at a time, press it back together. Put a little bit of kicker on this. And then hold it together for a split second till that gets back together. Okay, usually you glue your glove or your nose or something to the part. This piece we want to glue right back in here. In fact, I'll glue, see it's already broken in two pieces. I can make this a little easier on myself by just making it a one-piece repair. Okay, now this piece has to get glued back in place. Let's see what that's going to look like. Oh yeah, that's going to be fun. Every one is a unique little entity that has to be dealt with. And there's no guarantee that it won't break again. Basically because there's an engineering problem here. There's a double engineering problem. They try to make the parts super light. Everybody knows you want a light. Look at this, it's glued to my thing, but not the part. You want a super light part, that's for sure. But nobody wants to have a part that breaks. So since we're going to have to sand and fill this anyway, this won't be real critical. But we want to get that down in there and let that dry. That part is solid now and rough sanded. I cut up 2 pieces of carbon fiber. I want to put a double lamination of carbon down in there as a double reinforcement before I go on to the next step. Now what I decided to do is do this initial part of this with epoxy. I can mix it right here, in fact. This'll hopefully give us a little bit of extra rigidity from the epoxy, and we're going to find out, of course, right away. But this part, because it's broken several times already, we know this is a vulnerable part. I know this is one that's got that stress built right into it. Once I can reinforce this, then I can do the smaller of the two. Looks like that's not going to be a problem at all. And I already pre-cut these to the size. I'm going to make sure that I get a good bond all the way through. Now that piece of aluminum that Vlad cut out of there, I'm not sure that was the smartest thing now looking back at it, but it's his bike. So the customer is always wrong here, that's for sure. Anyway, I'm going to do this, get this to laminate in here, get as good of a bond as I possibly can. And once I have this in here reinforcing, the second layer on, and then of course this is going to have to dry. Once this dries, we'll get a look at how it's going to play out, this whole repair. Now what I can do, come on baby. That does, that'll just give us a little bit better saturation into the epoxy, into the carbon. But the BIMOTA parts, they're the thinnest. I thought the stuff, this actually is thinner, or maybe even thinner than a real track bike. Again, I know they're trying to save weight, but boy, oh boy. The kind of money you pay for these exotic bikes make me crazy if this was my bike. But there is a price to be had when you like exotic bikes. Just to be absolutely safe, I put some extra carbon fiber down here where those cracks were, because all that's got to be sanded and filled from the other side. But now this side is nice and solid. This is relatively solid. I'll trim the rest of this off. Ultimately, I got to put a nice edge on that, but right now, just to get some of that extra material out of the way. And that's solid now. This is the structural part of it. The cosmetic part from the other side, a whole nother issue. Now, anytime I'm working on stuff like this, it's always a messy job. It's always something that it's a mess. That's the only easy way to put this. Anyway, we want to get some of this. I have to get off with In fact, this is not going to work the way I wanted it to. I'm going to have to sand it off. But plans change as you go along on a job like this. There's no two jobs alike. And believe me, it looks easy when you're sitting drinking a cup of coffee at the TV. Yeah, it looks real easy, but getting that reinforcement so it's strong, it's not as easy as it looks. With all those edges roughed in, of course, this here is a cosmetic thing for another day. I want to get all the structural stuff done right now. Now this part is cracked. I'm not sure if you can see it. Pretty nasty crack. We're going to try to do the same thing inside. Sand the paint down. Now, because it looks like this is a stress-related crack, I don't have a lot of high hopes that this is going to be, that at some point in time we're not going to have this same issue again. But again, it's not my motorcycle, so I'm going to peel some of this back so I have room to get this in place. Looks like that's going to be no problem. I'm going to get down in there and clean that up as much as I can. Get a piece of sandpaper here. Get down in there and get as much of that cleaned up as I can. And then get a piece of carbon fiber laid in there. And pretty much that's all you can do with this kind of a crack, because it's a stress-related crack. It's one of the things, when you tighten a bolt or tighten something, this pulls or pushes. It isn't like what should happen in a perfect world is you should be able to just put each bolt in. And in a perfect world, you'd put all the bolts in and then tighten them, tighten them, tighten them. The reality is that doesn't really happen. And then it doesn't take into account the vibration anyway. So, okay, so that's cleaned up. I'm going to mix up some epoxy, get that piece of carbon in there, and pretty much we're going to be done for the day here very soon. And what I did, I put a total extra coat of epoxy and extra carbon fiber on this. I'm just really concerned these parts are really delicate. And a little bit of heat, get a little bit of penetration on the epoxy. But basically we spent 2 full days, 2 full shop days on this. And lucky enough, I think we have the part of it that matters. The structural part is fine now. Once this dries overnight, we can do the cosmetic part, figure out what and how we're going to do that. And you really don't know until you actually get ready to do it. But the structural part of this is probably as good as I can make it. And the next step on this, if Vlad's going to, if these parts are going to crack again, I would say is just to get new parts. So you might remember when these parts were refinished the first time, and well, maybe the second time, I don't know. We've had a lot of BIMOTA stuff in here. A lot of it is cracked. We've reinforced a lot of it in the past. And of course, these are exotic bikes, and maybe they take into account that people that buy them don't mind the extra work or money or whatever. I don't know that. One way or the other, I don't know it. But anyway, here's the really good point about this. I'm really hoping that this is going to last and work for Vlad. We're certainly going to have at least 1 and maybe 2 days of cosmetic work on this. It's a big job. None of these little things just jump out and they're done. They're all labor intensive. And this, I see there are a couple of scratches from, you know, just normal use of the bike. When we're all done, we'll try to buff some of that out for him. Got to do the cosmetic here. And again, these things are all, everyone is different. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. And right now, I gotta go. I gotta get dressed. In fact, I gotta head out to the school. The baby's concert is tonight. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. Gotta get ready to go to the concert. Oh no! Hey! Oh! Gotta get ready to go to the concert. Oh no! Hey! Oh! Ah! Ah! You sure you haven't seen this episode already?
I'm not sure.
Positive. Positively 4th Street.
Positive.
Bob Dylan agrees?
Positive.
Positively 4th Street.
Positive.
Oh my God, what a night for a concert. What a night for a concert. Oh God. Hey. Jersey weather. Aren't you glad you're not out riding your RD or something today?
Bye, honey.
See you at the concert.